Let's face it, most pickup trucks are a mess nowadays. With small turbocharged and overstrained engines, most of them are designed to stay operable during the warranty period and break down as soon as they're out of it, practically forcing you to buy a new one. Thankfully though, some pickup manufacturers still offer us, honest-to-God Americans, equally honest work trucks that can work for hundreds of thousands of miles without issues. Today, we've compiled the best of them, so sit tight as we take you through the 5 pickup truck models that are sure to keep on going after 250,000 miles. Number 5. Ford F-150. The F-150 has always been the favorite choice of Americans, and this keeps being the case even today. Despite the large price markup that full-size pickups are experiencing, the F-150 remains a sales champion year after year, and honestly, it's easy to see why. Even today, in an age of total electrification and technology, the F-150 remains one of the best choices for those of us that value tradition, practicality, and ergonomics. First of all, the exterior of the F-150 remains quite traditional compared to its rivals, and it retains the same evolutionary design that has been present since the early 2000s, making the truck look both modern and familiar at the same time. The interior is also oriented towards work and practicality, and unlike both the Silverado and the Ram 1500, it largely relies on physical buttons, knobs, swivels, and dials, instead of touch capacitive buttons. Plus, everything inside has been made robustly, and in this regard, the F-150 is sure to outlive all of its competitors. The suspension is also its strong suit, as it's extremely simple and durable, while still offering a good compromise between comfort, utility, and drivability. Unfortunately, the F-150's engine choice is somewhat mediocre. The entry-level twin-turbo 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 is appalling, offering power figures that can be rivaled by most single-turbo inline-4 engines, such as the one in the Silverado, while being much more complex. Not to mention that it's also not the most reliable unit to begin with the most prominent issue being the timing belt degrading over time due to the wet belt system. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 is a much better engine, offering greater potency, better utilitarian value, and considerably better reliability. Unfortunately, it's still a bit overstrained for our taste, and we wouldn't want to own it out of warranty. So if that's the case, why is the F-150 on our list at all? Simple, the 5.0-liter Coyote V8. This is a great engine through and through, and is probably the best V8 in a full-size pickup truck engine today. It's simple, highly competent, well-designed, and relatively easy to maintain, especially compared to its V6 counterparts. However, because of its alternatives, we just couldn't give the F-150 a higher spot on our list. Number 4. Ford Ranger. Who would have thought? The F-150's younger brother is a more dependable vehicle than its older brother. Despite coming with turbocharged engines all throughout the range, the Ranger offers us better peace of mind than its older brother. The key reason behind this is an even simpler platform and a more prominent orientation towards making the vehicle as simple as possible. The suspension is simple and rugged. The interior is made out of durable, if a little underwhelming materials, and everything is easily operable. Plus, parts are readily available because the platform itself is an evolution of the previous generation and is shared with the Ford Bronco. Not to mention that its base engine, the 2.3-liter EcoBoost, is amongst the best engines Ford has ever made. There's a running myth that it has issues with head gaskets. However, this issue has been resolved almost a decade ago, and the engine is now spick and span, a real workhorse of an engine, and it will most certainly keep running hundreds of thousands of miles into its life. The 2.7-liter EcoBoost makes an appearance once again. However, since it's reserved as an optional extra for the Lariat, we just advise you against optioning it, and that's all. As for the Ranger Raptor, it's too soon to speak, but according to our sources, the engine has been generally reliable until now, so we wouldn't really be surprised if it too turns out to be a solid unit. However, if you're up for a proper engine for a proper worker's truck, we'd still advise the 2.3-liter. Number 3. Honda Ridgeline. We know how you feel about the Ridgeline as a pickup truck due to its unibody platform, but hear us out. If you're up for a pickup truck that's road-oriented and offers a practical bed for its size, the Ridgeline is by far your best bet. You may not like it, but its extremely well-proven platform has a lot to offer. First of all, its underpinnings are exceptionally good, offering all 4 independent wheels a sophisticated yet rugged suspension that offers a composed ride, incredible driving dynamics, and solid ironing out of bumps and potholes. The interior, albeit a bit dated from a design perspective, will remain completely spotless after decades of usage. Heck, just look at the Hondas from the early to mid 2010s nowadays. No matter how many miles they've done, how and where they've been used, and how much they've been abused, the worst thing that can happen to the interior is button paint getting scratched off, which is really high praise. Ultimately, the 3.5-liter V6 engine is a masterpiece. It may not be all that capable when it comes down to power output or torque, and the truck might not be a good choice for towing. However, you're sure to see it do over 300,000 miles with regular maintenance and the engine remain healthy. That said, we understand that most of you aren't really open to the idea of a midsize pickup truck, let alone a unibody pickup truck, which is why we couldn't give it a higher position on our list. Number 2. Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra. GM's twins might not be a better overall package to the Ford F-150, however, reliability-wise, they are a considerable step up overall. First of all, the suspension setup is nothing less reliable and robust than the Blue Oval's offering, and while a little bit stiffer, you do get some added benefits with that, such as slightly better off-road capabilities. Also, the interior, albeit a bit more complicated than the F-150, is still very well laid out, especially on the Silverado's higher and Sierra's mid-range trims. The entry-level models are to be avoided in this regard, and while the Sierra's high-end models do offer a nice design and phenomenal quality, the ergonomics are non-existent. That said, the key reason we decided to rank GM's offerings so high up on our list are their engines. First of all, these two offer the only really viable entry-level engine out of the big American three, the 2.7-liter Turbo 4 engine. While it's not all that remarkable in its right, it is a solid engine, and it's proved itself as a dependable companion in all GM products that it's found itself in. It's definitely vastly superior to the 2.7 EcoBoost thanks to its simpler inline-4 single turbocharger design, while also being more economical and just as peppy and torquey. Furthermore, the GM twins offer two V8 engines, not just one. The first one is the 5.2-liter, which produces around 355 horsepower and upwards of 380 pound-feet. And while the numbers aren't that impressive, the fact that it's a naturally aspirated V8 in this day and age is certainly very nice to hear, especially when you take into consideration that it is smaller of the two on offer. This brings us to the 6.2-liter, which produces 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. This makes it almost as potent as the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, while being considerably simpler than it. As a result, the Silverado, at its best, can tow up to 13,300 pounds, which is just a lick under the F-150 with the EcoBoost, and 400 pounds more than what it can do with the Coyote V8. Number 1. Nissan Frontier. The top spot on our list belongs to the Frontier, the last true workman's pickup truck. There, we've said it. The Frontier is the only pickup truck with a simple engine, simple interior, low price tag, and great practicality. First of all, let's take a look at the interior. The Frontier, after it was redesigned, managed to combine modernity and practicality fantastically. As you can see, the interior is filled with a very traditional layout, to the point some might call it dated. But not us though. The Frontier is just sensible on the inside, much more than any of its rivals. And if you're an older guy, you'll certainly feel right at home with it. Second of all, the philosophy behind this truck is identical to that of pickup trucks of old. Keep it cheap, simple, and reliable. And the best show for this is its engine. The 3.8-liter V6 is by far the best engine in this segment, neck to neck with the 3.5-liter V6 from the Ridgeline. Ironically, despite being the largest engine in this segment, it's also one of the most frugal, offering MPG that beats the 2.7-liter inline-4 of the Colorado and Canyon, as well as the Tacoma. Speaking of the Tacoma, it seems to us that the Frontier has taken up the same veil that the previous generation Tacoma had, except for the fact that the Frontier is noticeably cheaper. In fact, considering that you get the V6 as standard, we're actually surprised that the Frontier costs less than $35,000 as standard. All in all, the Frontier looks like the saving grace Nissan desperately needed, and its qualities are rapidly getting recognized by more and more buyers.